Hey, good morning. How is everyone? It's actually 11 a.m., so yeah, still technically morning. I'm pretty irritated today due to a video that I watched yesterday. And the video was basically a young black man got pulled over by a young white female officer. Now, the young man was quiet, he was calm, never been pulled over before, but, you know, sooner or later it happens to all of us. He got pulled over in front of his home. Now, his mother was not calm. In fact, she spent the entire 30 minutes of the video screaming and yelling, calling the officer a racist. From the second she turned her lights on to pull her son over for running a stop sign, which was on video, to asking him for his license and insurance, and asking him if he was on probation or parole or had any weapons or drugs or drug paraphernalia on him. Now, these are all questions I've been asked almost every time I've been pulled over. Now, I am not a young black man, but I've been asked those same questions. Whether it was California, me being pulled over in, Kansas, Missouri, Rhode Island, Alaska, didn't matter. Officers were trained to ask those specific questions for their safety. What should have been a 5-minute traffic stop turned into a circus due to this young man's mother, because she felt the officer was being racist by asking these questions. As I watched this, I was just shaking my head, because in all honesty, the officer did nothing wrong. And as I sat back thinking about this throughout the night, I decided to start watching other videos. So I did. And I came to the conclusion, after watching dozens and dozens and dozens of videos of traffic stops, that racism is not as rampant in the police force as people think or are made to believe, and that it's being used as a tool to get a little bit of fame and to get possibly out of a ticket. But that's what it's being used as now. It's a tool for minorities to use to pass the buck on to somebody else. Oh yeah, you may have me on video running that stop sign, officer, but it wasn't me, it was you, because you are racist. And that's what this woman wanted that officer to believe. That her son didn't run that stop sign even though it was on videotape. But that she pulled him over simply because she was racist, when the truth is she was simply doing her job. And in every video where I saw someone yelling racism that I watched yesterday, it was the same situation. Someone got caught doing something they shouldn't have done, and it wasn't their fault. It was because the officer was a racist. Now, I saw videos of black people, white people, Asians, Hispanics. And the only race I saw yelling racism were blacks. With the black race. And it wasn't every single video. It was about 20 to 30% of them where a black man or woman would yell racism after getting caught doing something wrong, or getting caught with drug paraphernalia or drugs, or whatever the case was. They got pulled over, or they got searched, or their car got searched because the officer was racist. It wasn't because they were high as hell, or they were drunk, or they'd been in an accident, or that they'd, done some other infraction such as speeding or running a stoplight, that they were getting a ticket. It was that the officer was racist. And in every single case I saw on the video, guess what? Where that black man or woman was at fault for whatever the crime was that they were being given a ticket for. But yet they still yelled racism. I didn't see anyone of any other race yell racism when getting a ticket or being arrested, because they knew they were at fault, and that doing that would only make things worse for them. But you have men like George Floyd, who, 2-3 months ago was sadly killed by a couple of officers. And, the man shouldn't have been killed. I did come out after the fact he had COVID, so I'm sure that had a little bit to do with his demise. He did have warrants out for his arrest, and he had been a career criminal. So I can understand the officers treating him more aggressively than they would someone who was not a career criminal. I get treated very aggressively when I get pulled over. I get pulled out of the car every time, handcuffed and sat on the ground, because I have a criminal record, a violent criminal record. But I comply. 99.9% of the times, the cuffs are taken off. I'm told to have a nice day. I get back in my car and I go about my business. But not once have I ever yelled racism, because I know that that will just make the situation worse. I've had black officers throw me to the ground, put their knee in my throat, and not once have I ever yelled that it was because of racism. It's because these men were doing their jobs. Now, were they a little rough? Yes, because I was complying with everything they asked. They asked for my driver's license, my insurance, I gave it to them. They ran my name, came back, and that's when that stuff happened, because they saw my criminal record. And I don't blame them for that. I would probably do the same thing if roles were reversed. They searched my cars, they found no weapons, they found no drugs, because I had done nothing wrong. I tried my damnedest to stay out of trouble. But I'm not going to use racism as a tool to get out of a ticket or to get 5 minutes of fame. It's foolishness. If you break a law, get your ticket, do your time, pay your fine, whatever the case is. Hire an attorney, you might get out of it. But we gotta grow up, people. We gotta stop blaming everybody else for the things we do wrong. We all have lapses in judgment. We all run a stop sign once in a while because it's slightly behind a tree and we didn't see it. Or we, 10 miles too fast on the highway. These things happen to all of us, even the cops. I got a buddy had to go to court a few weeks ago. He was speeding through the city, and he's an officer. And he got hit with a higher fine than what I would have probably got hit with. He had to pay $300 and some on a speeding ticket. He was a white man pulled over by a black cop. Not once did he yell racism. We need to stop using this as a tool, as a means to get fame, and see it for what it is. Racism, it still exists. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you there are not racists out there. We have the KKK, we have the neo-Nazis, we have the Aryan Nation. There's all kinds of groups like that. The Black Panthers. There are all kinds of hate groups out there. But we as a nation need to overcome the pettiness of these others and realize that most people don't hate you because of the color of their skin. Most people don't hate you at all or even know you exist. And those that don't like you, they probably don't like you because of the way you act. And I'm going to be honest with you, I judge a person by their character, by their actions, not by the color of their skin. My family is highly mixed. My son is Japanese. Rest in peace, boy. You know, my daughters, one is Hispanic. I've got nieces and nephews that are mixed race, black and Hispanic. Got Asian grandchildren. I don't hate anybody based on the color of their skin, but I do dislike people and how they treat myself and others. That's normal. And if a cop pulls you over to give you a simple traffic ticket and you act aggressively toward that officer, you scream and yell, yelling that he's a racist, I have no problem with that officer putting you in handcuffs and throwing you to the ground until backup shows up and he's run your name and got your ticket for you. And if you try to run and resist arrest and he has to tase you or shoot you, fine. And I'll tell you why I think that's fine. Because he's forced to do that by your actions, by your inability to behave in a civilized manner. So I think, in all honesty, 90% of this racism garbage we see on the internet is just people using it as a tool and trying to get some fame. But I'm not going to say that's 100% of the time, because there are real racists out there, like I mentioned earlier, the Klan and so on and so forth. But all in all, most people are good. Most people don't give a damn if you're black, yellow, pink, green, or purple. They just want to live their lives just like you want to live your life. So let's just do that. And if you get pulled over or something happens, don't automatically think it's racism. Look at yourself and see if you did something wrong or you deserve to have gotten pulled over. Anyway, I got things to do. Peace.